podcast for heroes in the world of Overwatch. This is The Payload.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 35 of The Payload. We're an Overwatch podcast from blizzpro.com. Today is August 18th, 2016, and from Denver, Colorado, I'm John Horstman. With me, of course, is the crew. First, from somewhere on the West Coast, our very new co-host coming in for her second permanent show. It's Rosh. Hey, Rosh.
Hey, I'm super excited. Last week was a lot of fun. This week we have a lot to talk about, so I am ready to just dive in and get ready with it.
Awesome, me too. Before we do, though, we got to check in with our Canadian brethren over there. It's Kev-In. Hey, Kev.
What's up, John? Yeah, it's crazy. We had so much dropped on us just in these last couple of days, so we've got a long show for you guys. Tons of stuff to talk about. Maybe some controversial topics. We'll see. I don't know. I think we're maybe not all gonna meet in the middle on a couple of these things. That's my theory. We'll find out.
Well, you know how much I love controversy, so this should be a good one. So much. So, yeah. Well, before we do, let's talk about our weeks in Overwatch. I'm going to assume that it was a fairly successful week for the both of you.
Yeah, I had a ton of fun. If you guys have tuned into my stream at all, I am just constantly talking about how much I've loved the PTR changes, how much I enjoy the new meta, because Mercy's back, boys. So it's great for me. I've been having a blast.
Awesome. Well, that's good. Kevin, have you been having a blast too, or are you going to take the resident Debbie Downer position this week?
It's tough for me because I had some family stuff over the weekend.
So Debbie Downer.
No, my grandma wasn't doing so hot, so I was at the hospital. That's why I was kind of in and out around the show last week. She's still in the hospital, but it's going to be okay. Things are good. So I didn't play a ton. I did, for those of you who follow me on Twitter, you may have noticed I tweeted out a stream link over the week, and I did a little bit of casting. We had a cool little in-house tournament, and I was casting for the two tournaments that made the finals in that tournament. It was fun. It's a very different game, not the same as what I'm used to from casting StarCraft or Hearthstone, so if it's something I'm going to keep up with, I'm going to need a lot of practice, but worth checking out. If you're interested, hit me up on Twitter at Lack of Realism, and I'll link the VOD.
Awesome, man. It sounds like it was a lot of fun.
It was really cool, yeah.
I think I did pretty well for the first season. I finished at rank 60 on Xbox and 55 on PC. So not too bad, not amazing, but for the amount of time I get to play and splitting it between 3 games and then 2 different platforms,
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I mean, you could have put in a little more time on the PC just because it's better, but that's okay. It's still a really
it's
good
happening
rate.
Again.
Like clockwork.
I will never let you guys live it down. I will never let you guys. You should just stop letting me know that you play on console. Just replace console with PC. You guys will understand that you're talking about console, but I won't have to roast you and it'll be okay. 55 and 60 though are good ranks, so you should. I applaud that. You should pat yourself on the back. That's for the time you have to spend on both podcasts and all that, it's a pretty good rank, so good job.
So for me, I'm giving myself this. For you, Rosh, listen here. I will not tolerate such, what would it be, unacceptance, intolerance of console players. So therefore, you get the first one.
The boo.
Rosh gets her first boo on The Payload. How did it feel?
Oh man, it felt good. It was worth it. It was worth it. I will stand next to that.
It's always worth it. Every time I've gotten it, it's been worth it.
Worth it.
Well, I'm still wiping some tears from my eyes here. I have to rebuild up my self-confidence and so many other things. But let's talk about the news.
This week in Overwatch.
Woo! So, this week in Overwatch, we got a ton of stuff. Of course, it was GamesCom this past week. We do have, I think, the Atlantic Showdowns going on this weekend, right? I don't believe any of the matches, or at least any of the big matches, have been played yet. So we don't have any news there, but we do have a brand new map, Eichenwalde. It's in Germany, where Kevin's ancestors are from, maybe. Nope.
I'm
Just
German,
kidding.
so
I'm
you guys
German.
are from me.
I'm like 60% German. I may be a future Reinhardt offspring. What? It's not how it works. Not how it works. But yes, Eichenwalde, it's a hybrid map. Contrary to popular belief, it is not a reverse hybrid map. There was a lot of people who thought that it was a escort the payload to the point and then capture wherever the castle it looked like.
Other way around. They thought it was... Or no, you're right. Yeah, you thought it was expert capture. You're right.
Wait.
Yeah, and it's the other way around.
I'm right?
Yes.
Kev, you've
the map
never
is
said
actually...
that before.
No, the map is the other way. So for anybody who's unclear, the guess was that you were going to capture the battering ram and then escort it to the door. The reality is it's the same as all of the existing hybrid maps. You will escort the payload to the door, and then the interior of the throne room, if you've watched the video and seen the layout of the map, is the capture point to win the map.
Right. Wait,
I think we have it backwards now.
No. You capture a point and then escort the payload to the end. Just like normal.
You capture the point. So just like King's Row, you capture the point and then you escort the payload. But people, from the way the video was shot, it looked like you escorted the payload and then in the final
broke down the door and then captured that, which would have been awesome.
Sense. Yeah, that would be cool.
Visually, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. But really, it's just like all the other maps, Blizzard. You could have done a good one on that, but that's okay. But yeah, it's just like King's Row. It's just like any of the other hybrid maps.
Yeah. So, besides the confusion about how it's going to work, how do you guys like this map? What do you guys think of the artistic stylings, the way it's laid out from what we can tell? What do you guys think?
I like it. I haven't seen too much of it. I was watching a streamer at GamesCom stream the new map because they had a lot of people doing that to kind of showcase it. I've had a lot of people come into my chat and with their opinions on stuff when I'm streaming. It looks like there's a lot of crooks and nannies where you can hide, and a lot of spaces and doors, and a lot of second level stuff to where you can get the high ground. So I like how that sounds, but I'm not sure as a healer I'm going to like it when I get into the map. But I think that it creates a cool dynamic. It gives you more places to hide. So and the aesthetic to it looks really pretty. So I like it.
Nice. Kevin, do you think the aesthetic looks really pretty?
I do. The aesthetic is very pretty. There's a lot of information.
I just like to hear Kevin say the word pretty. It's kind of cute, isn't it?
Pretty.
It's pretty cute.
I don't know enough about the map from just watching the video or any of the streams. Like, I haven't had a good look at the layout, so until I get my hands on it myself and go play with it a little bit, I won't be able to say for sure. Definitely looks like it's going to be maybe more interesting than some of the existing hybrid maps, especially. Like, I think about stuff like King's Row and think it's nice to see one that's maybe a little wider open, does obviously have maybe a little more room to play and some extra hiding spots like Rosh was saying, but on the whole, I think it's probably going to be an improvement. Plus, just variety is great, right? Like, the more maps they add, the more interesting things get as far as the pro scene, so that's a huge plus in my mind. We'll have to see if any of that ever translates, like we were talking about in previous weeks, into your ability to maybe choose maps over others, or maybe they'll do something like Heroes of the Storm where maps will come in and out of rotation. They may just have maps that aren't in play for a given season and kind of rotate in and out. And I wouldn't be super mad if they decided to go that route either.
Yeah.
I would have to say, I'm going to go out on a limb. Sweeping generalization. This is my favorite map aesthetically that we've seen in the game so far. I can't speak to how good of a map it is yet because, well, obviously we haven't played it yet, but I like it better than any. I'm such a sucker for castles and throne rooms. Like, you get that Lord of the yes, and flowers. You get that throne room. You get that knight's armor. You get just awesome siege. It's It's just so cool. I can't handle it. So I'm going to say so far aesthetically, this is my favorite map that they've revealed so far. Maybe awful to play on, but I think just from the way it looks, it's my favorite.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. All right. So let's oh man, I'm looking at this here. Okay, let's talk about this Reinhardt skin really quick. So in the throne room, you see it at the end of the video. I think it's about to come up if you're watching on the live stream. But in the video, there's a throne room, and there looks like basically it looks like a dead Reinhardt. Well, it is actually the armor of Baldric von Adler, the commander of German's Crusader unit and Reinhardt's boss. So amazing. There will be 2 skins that are that. There's a pristine version, and then there's I forget the name of it, but like
it's an overgrown version, like the Bastion skin.
Yep, exactly. That's the one. So really cool. Love that stuff, and it will be available for in-game currency. Thank you, Blizzard, for that one. And yeah, what else do you guys want to do to talk about this map? Or are we just ready to move on?
Other than saying that I really, really like the new Reinhardt skin, and I hope that's kind of a preview for all of the other characters getting a new skin, other than Bastion, because that'll just make people want to play Bastion, and no one likes Bastion, so...
It's going to be bad enough with that short.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody
Hopefully
likes
they don't add
Bastion.
a Bastion skin, but...
Nobody likes
hopefully
Bastion,
they add some
says
other
the Mercy.
skins. Like, maybe do a really nice Mercy skin. I'm not biased or anything on wanting a Mercy skin, but...
We'll see.
We'll see.
There it is. Well, speaking of Bastion got a sweet, new, amazing digital short. It features Bastion in Germany. And without going too far into spoiler alert, it basically goes through his awakening process of waking up after he's overgrown Bastion, which if you pre-ordered, you remember the Origins skin is his overgrown skin. You can see it actually right there on the screen if you're watching on video again. And the sweet little bird, I forget its name, but it's a plush now that you can buy in the Blizzard store for $20. So yay, that's pretty cool too. And so it goes through this whole process of kind of re-going through this. It's almost like self-actualization, I guess. And he kind of goes back and forth between like this blue light where he's like soft, gentle, sweet little Bastion, and a red light where he goes into Terminator mode and kind of switches back and forth and has little adventures with his little bird, and ultimately has to make a choice between following his directive to some far-off city or going back into the forest. And he chooses to go back into the forest, and everyone wept. What did you guys think of this digital short?
I liked it. And let me reiterate. I liked the Bastion click, or the Bastion clip, not the players that play Bastion. So
we're crossing console players off the list.
We're talking
Bastion
console players
players
are already off the list, but yes, PC Bastion players. It's not Bastion that I dislike. The story for Bastion was adorable. I loved it. I didn't tear up because I watched it on my stream and I didn't want my viewers to see me cry, but I love the story. It was super cute. I really like the whole thing that Blizzard is doing with the lore for their characters. I think it's really giving this game some depth and just more to it than just a first-person shooter. The players who play Bastion are another story, but the story itself is really good. So I really liked it. It's been a while since they've come out with a clip, so I enjoyed it. This is probably my second favorite video since the Dragons video.
Okay, fair. Kev?
I mean, I really enjoyed it. Bastion was cool. The animation on Ganymede was neat. I saw some stuff on Twitter. Apparently, one of the Blizzard devs actually brought a bird in from home to let the animators have like a point of reference, which is really cool because that was I remember watching like videos back in the day of how they did that for things like The Lion King and just trying to watch like how the bird moves and making sure it looks accurate and true to life. And the bird did look very believable. Ganymede was very like well animated. I think in terms of raw, like how well the animation worked and how good this short looked was probably the strongest of them. I didn't think it was necessarily the most interesting story. It kind of to me felt like this is just I've seen this story done. This is Wall-E but with a Gatling gun. Like it's cool, it's fun. But I for sure definitely was more interested in like the Hanzo Genji backstory. I would love to see some of the things we know now from the comics, like Reinhardt's backstory, but done in an animated short. Like those are the ones that I'm really, really excited for. Bastion's was kind of like there's only so much they can do with a non-verbal character who is a machine and just comes back online. Like yes, obviously it's cool, it's fun. I didn't weep personally, but it was enjoyable on the whole. John, last thoughts?
Well, so I naturally I loved it. I thought it was really well done. I think you're totally right. It wasn't so much as a story as it was like a short. Like those Pixar shorts, they aren't so much telling stories as much as they are just like being kind of fun and cool. And yes, there is a story there, and we actually get some of like the first actual quote unquote footage from the Omnic Crisis and the battles going on there. So there is some stuff in there that we haven't seen yet in anywhere else. It's actually playing on the video right now, which is pretty cool. See a Reinhardt right in there or whatever they are. Oh my God, I can't remember. Crusaders. So like that was really cool, and I thought the battle scenes were amazing and letting us see some of that. But overall, I think incredibly well done. I want to say that I like this more than Dragons, just to be different. Just to be different. I honestly, I think the Dragon one is great. I think it's great, but I really I think the animation is this is the best animation based short that we've seen so far.
Yeah, and I said the same thing. I think the animation this is the strongest one visually to date, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, cool. Let's talk about anything else. I put a sassy comment in the show notes. I'm not gonna say that out loud on the show because we're a family-friendly show. But yeah, thought it was a great job, Blizzard. You made a lot of people happy. Even on the live stream, the moderator was like, I am physically teared up right now, and then asked to play it again. I don't know if that was part of the script or not, but it was really cool. You could definitely
really nice.
tell.
They had a really touching thing at the end too for the animator that they lost. One of the Blizzard staff that was in a motorcycle accident. So
oh yeah,
I thought that was a really nice touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Whew. Well, now that Rosh is done crying and Kevin's done talking about how much he likes dragons, we've got a lot to talk about game-wise as well. Holy crap. Season 1 is in the books, and we are at Season 2. And we've got a lot of changes coming forward. So first, we've got some ranking and leveling changes, don't we, Rosh?
Yes, a ton. If you guys don't know, they changed it from level 1 to 100 to a 1 to 5,000 scale. And if you don't really know how it equates to the 100, just divide it by 50. So 50 is rank 1, rank 70 is 3,500, rank 80 is 4,000. You can kind of see where you were before and see in the new system how you would have placed and where you are rating before. To kind of give you just an understanding of how the new system is working. With that, they come, instead of losing a whole rank or part of a bar to go up one rank from 74 to 75 in the old system, for example, you go by points, so you can get anywhere from 30 to 80 points, which will continually increase, and you'll lose the points. So it seems, I understand why they did it. It seems a little less, oh my gosh, I went from 74 to 73. This is the end of my life. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. I just wasted 3 hours and now I'm down a game. It seems a little less intense now, and I really, really like it. It seems a lot less intense and a lot more like you're not losing all the progress that you've made.
Well, and a big thing that they've done too is they've given you tiers within these numbers, right? So instead of your number being the absolute, this is how good you are at Overwatch, within each, there's a bunch of different brackets essentially of skill rating, starting with bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, master, and grandmaster. Bronze is 0 to 1,500. Grandmaster is 4,000 to 5,000. And the other ones are spread out for 500 in between. So the cool thing about this is, as Jeff Kaplan talked about in his developer update video, that you can go up into a rank and then fall out of it and not lose that rank as long as you are a bronze, silver, gold, platinum, or diamond player. Any of those people, you can't lose your rank and fall out, even if your skill rating falls below that threshold, which is nice. And that's also the points that you'll get at the end of the season for competitive. There is skill rating decay in Diamond and Grandmaster, so it varies a little bit. I haven't memorized all of it, but ultimately, I believe it's if you don't play for a week, you start to lose... Is it 500 skill rating or 50?
That seems like a lot.
I
think it's less than, I don't think it's 500.
I think it's 50. I think it's 50 per 24 hours.
Now that you say that, 50 per day. Yeah, that's how it is.
Yep, that sounds right. So it's 50 per day. You can drop out of the top 500. Oh yeah, if you don't play in a week, you drop out of the top 500 as well. So that's something there as well. Your competitive points per win increase from 1 to 10 per win, and the cost of this end of season rewards are changed from 300 to 3,000. So that doesn't really fundamentally change. You get 3 competitive points for a draw, I believe. I think that's the number that
I haven't
was
gotten
somewhere.
a draw, so I wouldn't know. I didn't read that. I don't
I'm
remember.
99% sure it's 3 competitive points for a draw. I think you should just get full competitive points for a draw. Big deal. Even if your skill rating doesn't move up and down, what does it matter? It's 10 points. It's a difference of 7. It's not going to make or break someone's season. And it'll feel better for going through such a long game and coming to a draw. But that's just my personal thoughts. And then the big one, Rosh, I can't carry you anymore in Overwatch because we have to be within 500 skill rating of each other to be able to queue.
I don't know how I'll live with myself without being able to be carried by you, but I think that I will find a way to carry on. So do not worry, John. I will survive. Don't worry.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad to hear it. That you'll survive so you can still be on the show every week.
I think I really like the changes. A lot of people don't understand why they put it into amounts of 10 instead of 1, but that's because they also added, if you remember in season 1, you didn't get any competitive points if you lost a match. You only got competitive points if you won a match. So what they wanted to do is, because they got so much critique with people saying, hey, I just lost 10 matches in a row. I just spent 2 hours, 3 hours, and didn't have a single thing to show for it. I'm not having fun. They listened to that, which is really cool of them, and they added it to 10 so that they could still give you some points if you lose and if you tie as well, so that people feel like it's a little more worth playing the game even if you lose. So I understand that, and I actually kind of like that. The only thing that I would critique with the new system really is that I've played a lot, and it's really hard to see how many points you lose and how many points you gain per match. So what happens is you go through the screen, it shows you the highlight, the play of the match, and then you go to the next screen and it shows your rating as it is before the win or loss, and then it quickly calculates it and raises the number. So you only get a split second to see where you were before, and after a match, you're not going to remember. So say I'm at 3,300. It's hard to remember the exact amount you're at after a whole intense match. And then it quickly calculates if you win. It'll quickly go to like 1339 or 3439. So I wish they would add like a little
plus
section.
minus or
Yeah,
something.
just plus. You could still show the animation because it kind of looks cool seeing your rating go up and down. I understand that, but just maybe like underneath it, put plus 29, plus 39, minus 17, because it's kind of hard to calculate, and you kind of want to see how many points you're getting for a tough game. It's kind of rewarding to see that. Like, oh, I just played against these pros and I won and got 120 points. I'd like to see that. I'd like that to be acknowledged.
Yeah. Kev, what do you think about the new changes?
I'm pretty happy with them on the whole. I mean, for anybody who's played any of Blizzard's other games, a lot of this will feel very familiar. This system is cribbed very, very specifically from StarCraft. They had the exact same thing in terms of the different tiers, as well as the decay system that allows you to drop out of Grandmaster, but also the protection against decay in lower tiers and the ability for you to sustain a rank once you've reached it. So if you do cross the threshold to join gold tier from silver, you'll never get demoted back to silver, even if you do lose that next game. It doesn't have the same thing as, say, Heroes of the Storm, where you play promotion and demotion matches and can go up and down wildly over the course of a season. So it's very much a progressive system. You'll feel like you can make gains, and if you do have kind of a good run where things are going well, you can cross over into the next league, get the rewards and the visible icons or banners or whatever else for being a gold league player without feeling like you're going to lose it the next game if you turn around and lose one match. So on the whole, I think that's really smart and will feel a lot better. Like Rosh was saying, you're going to feel like it's easier to measure your progress. It's more visible. You've got a better idea of where you stand as far as, relatively speaking, how good you are compared to your friends, because that number is a much easier number to compare than, you know, the difference between a player at 55 and a player at 60, for example, because those are the two ranks that you got, John. That's a night and day difference on the same platform. If you have two players that are 55 and 60, they're barely in the same tier. In the new system, they may very well be a whole league apart. That's how dramatic that difference would be. So I think that's really smart. Honestly, like the only criticism, if I'm going to levy a criticism at all, that I have.
Comes. This is
No,
what we wanted.
and we haven't touched on this at all yet. The new season doesn't start until September 6th. So we are without any competitive mode, which means you are out any way to play one hero limit other than playing in custom games for 3 weeks. And that, I think, is unfortunate. Like, it'd be nice if...
You could play on PTR. It's still
adjusted on
PTR,
You can go play on PTR, but if you're not going to play on PTR, for people who want to keep working on unlocks on live or leveling or whatever else, like if you're not going to play PTR specifically for the testing aspect of things, you've got no way to play one hero limit to keep practicing and staying fresh. And I think that's unfortunate, because for me, I don't have a ton of time to play. I'm probably not going to spend a lot of time on PTR. So if I do get a night where I want to sit and play Overwatch right now, all I can do is quick play. And that doesn't necessarily feel as rewarding. You run into a lot more people who are trying to run troll comps, or just they're not playing the same type of game. So my hope is that in the future, either the gap between seasons is narrower, we can maybe get that down to just a week off, for example, or that Blizzard introduces a way for us to play one hero limit games that aren't part of a season. So we could just have, you know, a competitive play queue, but have it not count towards a season. Because having it just taken out of the game altogether for a month, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, 2 weeks doesn't sound like that long when you think about it retrospectively. Like when you take a step back and think, oh, 2 weeks, that's nothing. But yeah, if you're playing on a day-to-day basis, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, you have unless you're on the PTR, which you're not going to want to be on the PTR because none of the loot boxes or levels transfer over, you're kind of stuck with people running like double Zarya, double Roadhog, which was just so annoying beforehand that you don't want to put up with that. So you're basically just not going to play. I think that maybe after this season, they'll see that they had a fallout of people who are actively playing and they'll adjust it. I think realistically, it'll probably be about a week between seasons, and they'll go for that. That way you have enough time to roll out the changes on the PTR and to see how they're going, which they rolled out a ton. So maybe that's why they did 2 weeks, because of how many changes they did. But maybe next month it'll only be a week to see how those changes go into effect, because yeah, that's a little too long.
Well, they've done this differently with each of their games, right? Like in Heroes of the Storm, there's no downtime. It just rolls smoothly from one season to the next. In StarCraft, they do have a downtime at the end of the season where they lock the season, so you can just kind of fight for your placement within your league, and then it reboots. So there is kind of a 2-week gap in a way. The specific thing I take issue with is the fact that none of those games, none of the other Blizzard games, have a seasonal gap or part of their seasonal rollover where the game mode is removed. Like that's what
Yeah.
I'm upset about, is that right now I can't play one hero limit unless I go either try and play on the PTR or build a custom in-house lobby with
Yeah.
11 of my friends, which is not a super easy task. So I'm hoping that they'll take that feedback under consideration and say, you know what, people want to play one hero limit. It was an enormously popular thing. So much demand existed that they had to change seasonal play midway through the season to introduce it. My hope is that they'll remember that demand and say, why did we take one hero limit games out of the game for 3 weeks? Like
Yeah, that makes sense.
that's my hope.
Even if they keep it there and just let you know what, have 3 weeks to just play competitive mode. There's not any rankings or anything
Doesn't
like
affect your
that.
MMR. Like it's just
Yeah, just so you
Even-
can play one hero limit.
One hero limit, maybe get some extra competitive points. I
Sure.
wouldn't even
If they
care
wanna
too.
do that,
Why not?
that's
You know,
fine.
like I don't see any reason for those things needing to be down just to kind of reset competitive play. That's just it's literally quick match with one hero limit and competitive points at the end. I don't
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, last thing on the big season 2 changes is sudden death is gone. And everybody rejoiced. The worst thing I have ever experienced. Not really, but pretty close.
It wasn't fun. Like it just wasn't
No,
fun.
it wasn't.
It's not that it
No.
was like awful or not a viable way to get the results they wanted. It just wasn't fun. And whether it worked or not, whether the numbers said it was balanced and even or not, it wasn't fun. And the perception problem is what kills games. So
Yeah,
that's,
exactly. At the end of the day, it's about if you're having fun or not. And if you're not having fun, you're not going to play no matter how good at the game you are. So
well, or how
Right.
balanced it is. Like even if
Yeah.
the devs can come out and say it's 100%
it's exactly
fair,
yeah.
the statistics say it's perfectly even at all skill levels, the players were like, no, we don't enjoy it. That's a huge piece of feedback, and it was nice to see them act on it as quickly as they did.
Right. Kevin, do you want to take us through these sudden death changes or how it's been removed or replaced coming up
Sure.
in competitive mode?
Yeah, so on standard point capture maps, we'll continue to use the best 3 of 5 system that you've become accustomed to in Season 1. On assault-style maps, you will use a time bank system, so you'll have the additional time left to go back and play to as far into the map as you can get with your remaining time. And on payload hybrid maps, you will also use the time bank system. So you'll get that second chance to see how deep you can go in. So it basically becomes which team gets the furthest over the course of like 1.5 offenses or defenses is probably the easiest way to think about it. And it just looks specifically at performance against captured points or against distance if you get to a payload in the hybrid map. So
Cool. I like it. I think it makes a lot of sense. And
I think it's what people have been asking for. And I think,
Yeah.
like, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't this also how the game worked originally in beta? And then they went to sudden death?
That I don't know. I actually
wasn't
didn't
a
play
time
an
bank.
original beta, but I think what happened is if it tied instead of going to sudden death, if you were on, it didn't matter what map you were on, it put you on a King of the Hill map, and
Yep.
you had like a
Oh,
death
yes, that's
match
right.
where
Exactly.
whoever basically won that, it doesn't matter if you held off the payload for 9 minutes and 59 seconds, it reverted to a King of the Hill map, and people weren't happy with that because they felt that their progress on the payload map was non-existent
happen.
because all of a sudden it just wiped over. So they didn't like that. We didn't like the coin system, which, yeah, it's completely right. That it was, even if the numbers were exactly right, it didn't feel good. When you got attack or you got defense, it was basically like if you got defense, like, all right, well, I'm not going to play. Like, I'm done. Like, I don't even want to finish this. Like, great, I just wasted 20 minutes of my life going back and forth. The new system, I do like the new system. A lot of people have been questioning, hey, if it's a time bank system, why are you giving people a second chance to move the payload with their remaining time? So if you move the payload and you have 3.5 minutes and then the other team has 2.5 minutes left, you get a second chance at pushing the payload again for the allotted time, and basically whoever gets it further wins. A lot of people have been questioning, well, why not just do it on the original map? Whoever got further in the shorter amount of time should win. At first, I questioned that, but now that I've kind of sat here and thought about it, what if the attacking team just rolls through and snowballs through point B. Point B, or the defending team, doesn't have a lot of time to switch their comp around it, so maybe they just get steamrolled to the end. The second round gives you a second opportunity to better evaluate what your team was doing, go through it, and maybe it was a fluke. Maybe the attacking team rolled through you and it was a fluke. It kind of gives you a chance to better yourself, come back and prepare. So I get that. One thing that I don't like, however, is say you go into the second match. You've both capped the payload all the way to the end. You have 3 minutes left. They have a minute left. If you're defending them and they get to the minute mark, it goes into overtime. And that overtime if they continuously wipe the defending team and they stay on the payload to not trigger the overtime from running out, they can essentially move the payload all the way from the beginning, even if they only had 30 seconds, to the end, because overtime just stays on. I don't like that. I think as soon as that minute ends or that 30 seconds ends, it should be over. I don't think overtime should be in the new system because that essentially just results in ties to where you just move it to the end.
Well, something they did do, because I would fundamentally agree with you. I don't know how often that happens, but they also changed the way how the fuse works. So the fuse will basically, after like 20 seconds, if you're off for a second, it's gone. Like that fuse is totally gone. Yeah. I get it. It's not totally fair. But Jeff Kaplan, and he kind of addressed this in the video, saying what we still think that Overwatch can be kind of a swingy map a little bit, and just because you don't do well at a certain part of the map or with a specific comp doesn't necessarily mean you're the worst team, and it gives you some more opportunities to be the best team. Now, if it were with the short respawn timers and everyone running Diva, no hero limit, like, I think that's a lot bigger of an issue because I think that's a lot more likely. But between respawn timers being a little bit, being kind of equalized a little bit, they're a little bit faster for defense, but on some maps. But I think they're doing this incrementally because I feel like the developers still say, like, there's some really fundamentally cool things about our game and what we do. We want to do everything we can to keep that in the game until we have to remove it. Sudden death. Great example. When they went ahead and justified sudden death on paper, it sounded great. Yeah, I'm totally on board with that. And then when it got implemented, it just kind of sucked and it wasn't fun. And even though, fundamentally what Jeff Kaplan said was right. And when sudden death works a certain way, it can be really fun and rewarding. Most of the time, it's not. Same thing with one hero limit. One hero limit was simply because balancing is too difficult and there's too many restrictions on hero design and balance when you have the possibility of multiple heroes going around. And so after they've ruled that out, they went there. And same thing with overtime. Will overtime eventually be removed? Maybe, but I think we've seen from Overwatch that they want to try to keep overtime in there and part of the game until they've determined that it makes it broken or not fun or not fair or doesn't feel rewarding. And then if it does, boom, it'll be gone.
I don't know. I understand. And Joe is saying in chat, basically overtime should be a thing in it. And I agree. Overtime should be a thing. It's just the point where I feel like on a payload. So let's look at Dorado in specific. Okay. The whole point of the map is to either move the payload all the way to the end or further than the enemy team did. So if you were able to stave off the enemy team for 9 minutes the first round, and so they only have a minute left, I feel like that should be consequentially a huge sign that you win. And I understand the reason that you get to move the payload a second time for that last minute to give you another shot. But I feel like that kind of erases the point of the time bank and the point of the original map on who can move the payload further and who can cap it. If you can't move the payload if you can't move the payload as far as we did the first map, we're giving you a second chance to make it a little more fair, but triggering overtime for 9 minutes of the game or 90% of the map just seems like a little unrealistic to me. Yes, like Joe said, it does kind of come into the defending team not being able to knock everybody off of the payload. Like
Does
that
that
kind
happen?
that's happened. That's happened, and it's pretty annoying on PTR. Maybe I'm just biased, so maybe I'm just not having fun. But people that I've talked to, people that I've been grouping with, people on the PTR as well, have been saying the same thing. It's just sometimes stuff happens and the team falls apart, or you get someone that just starts or just crazy stuff happens on PTR. We all know it. We've all seen it. The fact that you can trigger overtime on the payload for 99% of the map and still win doesn't seem right. Like, it just doesn't seem right to me. And I don't know why it doesn't sit right. It doesn't feel good. Maybe I'm the lesser amount. Maybe I'm the I can't think of the word, but maybe my opinion is the unpopular opinion. I just thought I wanted to talk to you guys, see what you guys thought. So,
I mean, this system is very common in objective-based
Yeah.
gameplay in other games, right? Which is a large portion of why people were so adamant that they wanted to see it come to Overwatch. Was this is what people have become accustomed to in playing objective-style gameplay in other games, and it keeps a fairly level playing field. Now, there's bits and pieces of how Overwatch does it that are unique. Some of how they're doing the calculations around overtime and what distance is or isn't considered on the objective for overtime and all those other things are obviously dials that they can adjust up or
Yeah.
down. I think, broadly speaking, it's a strong system. This is an
Yeah.
enormous improvement over sudden death. And I would be hesitant to be really critical of it because it does provide a much more fair playing field
yeah, I agree.
in the sense that if you were more successful in the first round, but you weren't ultimately fully successful, then the defenders won, right? That's if you were playing just a single match, that's how that would count as defense wins. If defense wins on both sides, then you obviously have to do something to determine who does better. And then it
Yeah.
becomes kind of like a weird best of three thing where it's like defenders won game 1, defenders won game 2, so we're going to a game 3. But you can't have a sudden death coin flip style thing where one team is on offense or defense.
Yeah,
So your
definitely.
game 3 is both teams being given that second opportunity to push with whatever time they had left, right? That's kind of, and if both teams go all the way and offense wins both times, same problem. So it's
Yeah.
just a question of how do we make this fair and equitable for everyone involved. I don't know that there's a better system than this, unless you wanted to get into a situation where you were deciding it based on which team was fully successful the fastest, or somehow do the math around which team played a better game if neither team captures the first point or something. Like it would just get very complicated very quickly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the best of a bad situation, I guess, would be
Yeah,
my
don't get me
response to
wrong.
that.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I love the new system. I'm not critiquing it. I'm not saying that they need to drastically change it. I'm way happier with the new system than the old system. Do not get me wrong. I love it. I'm enjoying it. It's just something I noticed. I definitely think that it needs to be worked upon a little, maybe improved or just tweaked a teeny tiny bit. But at the end of the day, miles better than the old system. So yeah, kudos Blizzard. I love it. It makes the game way more enjoyable. I haven't had this much fun playing Overwatch in like a month, so I love it.
Great. Let's talk about the new patch in the PTR because we still have a huge patch to go through. Oh my god.
Faster than sight. So predictable.
All right, so we do have a huge patch currently on the PTR. A big one of the biggest ones I think we've seen in a long time. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the heroes seeing some sort of rework or rebalancing. So we figured the best way is just to kind of go down through, talk about the interesting ones, and go from there. So, alphabetically, first is Diva. Her defense matrix has a 1 second cooldown before you can use it again instead of a half a second. Basically, people were getting too, I don't know the right word, but they were just very tappy. We're going to say they were very tappy with the definitely not the term for it, but they were using it too agilely, I guess. I don't know, with too much agility, whatever, and it made it really strong. And so by lowering that a little bit, it gives the other people the opportunity to get through that defense matrix, because somebody who can navigate that defense matrix really well is pretty strong, and they do a pretty good job. So that's Diva. Any thoughts on this one?
I like it. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
go on,
I was
Kevin.
gonna say, just
like it.
briefly, I think it's
Yeah.
the cleanest fix they could have done, because there were just too many people playing Diva who were trying to game projectile travel time and rate of fire against certain characters. Like, you could flip defense matrix on and off in synchronization with like how fast a Junkrat could attack, and just catch every single attack without using up your defense matrix in full by keeping it open the whole time. So people were just like, they were doing too much clever stuff with it, which in fairness was probably the right thing to do. Like, you found a viable way to use the ability the way it was built, but that wasn't how it was supposed to work. The intention of the new defense matrix was never that you could game people's rate of fire and projectile travel time. It was just supposed to make it slightly stronger than the old one. So I think it's a very clean fix.
I agree.
Totally agree. Hanzo moves 30% slower when aiming instead of 40%. So he moves faster when he's aiming, and his maximum projectile speed has been increased by 30%. This is a pretty big one, Kev. What do you think?
Well, okay, so we don't have it separately in the notes here, but the biggest problem with this is that they've reverted projectile size. Okay, so now you'll recall there was a patch a while back.
I was wondering, because I didn't see that. I was okay.
So
go
they've
ahead.
reverted the projectile size change. So it used to be that people were making jokes about how Hanzo was firing tree trunks because the projectile just felt so big, and there were those videos that went around online of people killing targets from like around the corner because the Hanzo projectile was so big that it could clip them even when it didn't have line of sight. That's part of what's changed, is that had some unintended consequences. Blizzard didn't identify what those consequences were, but they reverted projectile size. So in addition to the fact that Hanzo can strafe faster while he's aiming and that his projectile travels faster, he's back to shooting tree trunks. I think that's going to be what makes people really upset, because Hanzo should not be a super viable competitive character. He has a couple of niche use cases. He should be playable. He's got a very strong ult, but he should not be a main pick in the game all the time, just by virtue of the way he works, right? Having an unlimited amount of ammo that does have the potential to get one-shot kills, he should have some drawbacks. Right now, the drawbacks feel really minimal because he's so powerful, because his projectiles travel so fast, are so large, and hit so hard. I think if they don't make some kind of change again to the size of projectiles for calculating hitboxes, that there's going to be a tweak coming here, because he just feels, from what I've heard, from what I've seen, super strong on PTR, to the point that people are playing him at a like rate that vastly outpaces the expected pick frequency of Hanzo.
Yeah, Hanzo's nutty right now. I'll tell you that Hanzo is now more of a prominent character than your supports or your tanks. There is a Hanzo on every single team, attacking, defending, king of the hill, hybrid maps. It is Hanzo, and I think partially it's because it's the PTR, so people are just trying to play Hanzo to see how it is, but also because of how overpowered he seems to be right now. I played against a Hanzo yesterday. He ulted, I'm not exaggerating, he ulted every 12 seconds. It was ridiculous. He's just shooting so much, so far, and I didn't know about his hitbox being reverted, but I guess that makes a lot of sense, because you can't dodge his arrows now. Not only do they fly faster at you, but apparently their hitbox is much bigger, so it's way more difficult dodging a Hanzo arrow, which is, I understand that was the point to why they changed it, because they don't want you to be able to dodge a snipe, and Hanzo felt a little weak in that regard. But right now, I think they over-tweaked him, because he is crazy right now. I have to specifically play as a support. I have to specifically play against a Hanzo, or around a Hanzo that's 100 yards away on the other side of the map. And it's ridiculous. Put a Hanzo and a guy who can, with a person who can aim, and it'll drive you crazy. So I definitely think something needs to be reverted with him, because he's too strong right now.
well, it's tough, right? Like there's so many things about him that all of a
Yeah.
sudden matter. Like there's no damage fall off, right? It's just the
Yeah.
projectile arcs, so you have to aim differently to get it to fire that far. Like his power level has always been a little on the questionable side. He's got a way stronger body hit snipe than Widowmaker does after all the Widowmaker changes. So he's gotten to this point where like all the other characters have gotten nerfed downward, and he's just kind of sat unmolested in the corner, like, yeah, things are great. I don't need to be changed. And now, when everything comes back
You
the other
didn't
way,
use the word molested.
thanks,
You
I-
did
Josh.
not
think-
use that word.
I may have. Anyway, point being, he's being played in, like Raj says, every game, and
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, I know they've got time to make changes. The PTR is going to be quite long, but I can't see
Yeah.
him going live the way he is
Yeah,
right
no
now.
way. I don't think he's going to go live right now. And I think it's funny that we were just saying last week how Blizzard has gotten really good at tweaking characters to where they're not just putting them over the edge or just completely destroying them. They've gotten a little better. But then they did this to Hanzo. And this was, how did they think this was a good idea? I don't know. I definitely agree with Kevin. He's not going to make it to live like this.
We didn't
but
say that about the PTR, though. We didn't
Yeah,
say
that is
they
true.
do crazy stuff in the PTR that doesn't
That
stay.
is true. I'll give them that credit. It is the PTR, so maybe that's why they just drastically did this because, hey, maybe it'll work, maybe not. If it doesn't, it's the PTR, who cares? So yes, I'll give you credit, Blizzard. Maybe that's it. I'll give you credit, John, for pointing that out. Maybe that's it.
Why do you not want to agree with me?
No, I
ever?
am. I am agreeing with
yeah,
you.
you
I'm
so
agreeing right now.
begrudgingly.
But
It's like you have to donate a part of your soul every time you're like, yeah, John.
it's the console player. I can't.
You got 55.
All right.
But yeah.
You got
yeah.
higher than Kevin
They-
or Jimmy.
Yeah, they're
Moving
gonna
on,
have to
moving
change
on.
it. They're gonna have to change it. That's my final. They're gonna have to change it. There's no way it goes live like this.
So tweaks to May. I think these are again pretty strong. Her projectiles have been modified to pierce barriers, and the radius on her ultimate, the Blizzard, has been increased from 8 meters to 10 meters. Is that correct?
I don't know the exact meters, but it's definitely been increased.
Yes.
Yeah.
It seems like
So
way
those-
more than
8 to
that.
10.
Those are the two changes. I think they're great. Like her ult is a little more viable as a zoning thing now. Her projectile is able to pierce barriers, makes her a little bit more of a threat. She's not a character that was seeing a ton of play at the highest level. She's super disruptive. She's fun to play, and this actually makes her a little bit scary. Like not so much that she's broken or overpowered or anything silly, but just she's got some good natural counters that will be able to. She'll have some viability in specific use cases.
I think she always had kind of a use. What were you gonna say, John?
For those just asking in chat, the projectiles is misleading. There's one projectile that she has, and that's her little little guy.
Yeah, it's the physical thing that she can throw to
not
pause
her
those-
alt fire. Her left click or a right click. We're talking
Neither of her weapons count as projectiles in that
Right.
sense.
Exactly. So that's what we're talking about. Just so you're up and ready to go.
I don't think, like Kevin said, she didn't really get to see a lot of high level play. I thought that she was a good, very subjective, very like if this happens, you're going to want to play her. If they're running a Genji and a Tracer and you want to play Mei, okay, cool. But she didn't get as much as, say, like a McCree. So I understand the buffs. A lot of people hate Mei. So a lot of people are crying over these buffs. The only thing that I have about it is that her ult seems huge now. It just seems so massive that I feel like it's not game changing, but I'm playing Mercy, so I can shift out of it. So I feel like DPS and tanks are feeling a lot more on edge because of the buffs to Mei. But like Kevin said, they're not going to make her broken. A lot of people are crying right now, but none of her buffs make her a broken champion like McCree used to be. None of them make her an immediate pick every single match. On the PTR, people are playing her a lot, so you're going to run into her a lot, but that's because it's the PTR. As soon as it hits live, I don't think as many people will be able to play her, and if they do, it's because they just want to have fun and are for some reason doing it on the range. So I like the changes. I think they're fine.
Yep, totally agree. Moving on to McCree, very small change. I don't even think we needed to discuss
Yeah.
this. But his Deadeye, basically how McCree's Deadeye used to work is when you activated it, it would go down to 50%, and when you shot, it would go to 0. So if you activated it and canceled out, you would still be at 50% ultimate. So you could feasibly use that as a weapon quite often in the game. They changed that, so now it depletes in 0.25 seconds, pretty on par with most of the rest of the characters. I don't want to say all because I don't have them all in front of me, but most of the rest of the characters deplete very fast when they start doing their ult, so that was changed. We're going to skip this next character, go straight to Genji.
She's not
I was
kidding.
reading it too. No, I was reading it. I was like, okay. I can make it fast. I'll make it really, really, really
It was
fast.
a joke, Rosh. It was just to try to make you mad.
Basically, what he's talking about are the Mercy changes. I'm a Mercy main, so haha, John, good one. The Mercy changes, her HPS on her staff for her heals were increased by 20%, and resurrected allies can now move after 2.25 seconds, down from 3 seconds, which is huge. You get back into the battle a lot. Things are a lot faster, especially with the Zenyatta, it seems. Matches seem to go by a lot faster. So it's cool to get back into the groove of things a lot faster. Her HPS increase is huge. She now out-heals the Lucio AoE heal and the Zenyatta Discord. So since she's a solo healer, it kind of makes sense to do that. There's no reason a Lucio AoE heal should out-heal my single target heals. So it's a good move. Consequentially, the previous nerf that kind of made her unplayable was increasing her ult charge by 30%. Now they've increased her HPS percent by 20%, so they've kind of counterattacked that. She still is a little less powerful than she was when the game released, but now she's more playable. The meta seems to be a lot more interchangeable. So all of the changes to her were good. I haven't seen, even personally, I won't be biased about it, I don't think that she's overpowered at all. I think she's in a perfect spot. I think now Lucio is kind of the underpowered one, but he's still situational. So I like the changes. I think they were very good.
I think the thing that'll be noticeable though is that Mercy is still probably not going to be in a place until she gets a broader rework, which we've heard Blizzard say is kind of on their agenda. She's never going to be able to optimally be a solo healer, right? So you're still probably going to run her alongside a Zenyatta or a Lucio. That would be my guess. I see you grinning. I understand you probably disagree with me. At most levels of play, and in terms of competitive especially, double support has been the meta for a long time, and I would be really shocked if people decided to go to single support, and if they do switch to single support for some reason, that it would be just a Mercy. So on the whole, though, I think you're probably right. This makes either Mercy Zenyatta or Mercy Lucio back to kind of the norm. And that's probably going to be more interesting in a lot of respects because the threat of a Mercy ult is so big, and that's a way bigger swing in a game than a Zenyatta ult, for example.
I mean, I think there's also a lot of things too. Kev, I somewhat agree that Mercy probably won't be running by herself, especially at top level play, because that's just obvious. But in like normal ranks and even up into the 60s, I don't see why, especially if you have, road hogs and soldier 76s, ones who can really do quite a bit of healings and just augment and mitigate what Mercy can't kind of make up from being a solo healer. Like, I think that there may be some scenarios where that could be viable if self-heals are good enough. They already help charge up their ults, makes Mercy's job a little bit easier. I could see potentially people play around with that. I think, though, especially at high ranking stuff, that's
competitively, it'll still be double healer.
Yep.
In ranked, Mercy's a lot more viable to solo heal. She's just better now, so it's a lot more reasonable to solo heal her, but competitively, definitely still a double healer.
Yep. Let's go on to this big one here. So Genji's seeing some nerfs. Hallelujah. Thank you. This is the best. So double jump no longer resets while wall climbing. Yay. Dash no longer deals damage to things like Venom Mine or Steel Trap. Yay. Dash no longer bypasses Steel Trap. Yay. Swift Strike no longer interrupts melee attacks. Yay. And Dragon Blade time has been reduced from 8 seconds to 6 seconds. So removing the really kind of cheeky mobility stuff has been great. Stuff that almost felt like cheating and not so much like I'm a really mobile character. Look at me. And then also doing pretty significant nerfs to the ultimate time. I think that's going to be a big change. I haven't seen Genji a whole lot on the PTR, but from what I'm seeing from reactions on like Reddit and Twitter, it does look like the nerf is noticeable for sure. So what do you guys think? Any other thoughts on this?
You go first.
Sure. I was going to say, I don't even know that it's necessarily fair to qualify these as nerfs.
Yeah.
Double jump resetting while you were wall climbing, to me, could easily be categorized as a bug. Dash dealing damage to fixed placements like Venom Mine or Steel Trap could very easily have been categorized as a bug. Dash getting to go through Steel Trap and destroy it was 100% a bug. Like, that's not a nerf. That's an interaction that wasn't designed to work that way. And they're not saying it should have worked that way all along. They're saying this is now us fixing that problem. Swift Strike interrupting melee. There's always been weird glitches with melee interactions. There was the people who were trying to melee to scope with characters faster or whatever. Like, there's always been weird interactions with melee. So fixing that also makes complete sense, and making it so you can't game that for a little extra damage as Genji, totally fine. The only legitimate, like, serious change to his power level here is his ult timer being reduced. And even the people who main him actively, like even guys like Seagull, who commented on this, have said that change was probably necessary. His ult lasted too long. It was too powerful. The duration was always the issue. It's still very scary. It's still very powerful, but it just doesn't last quite as long.
I completely agree.
Yeah, I don't think any of this is wrong. It also means that it opens up some new counterplay that didn't exist before. I play a lot of Junkrat, and it was really annoying that you would throw down a steel trap thinking, I'm going to catch him when he comes in after me, and he could just glide through it and one-round you using a melee bug. Like, the whole way that he was played was always highly contingent on all of these interactions that, again, like we were talking about earlier with the defense matrix change for D.Va, people found out how it worked. They discovered that you could reset double jump. They discovered that you could reset melee using Swift Strike. Like, they found all these things and said, okay, we're going to game the availability of those mechanical interactions. And Blizzard has turned around and said, no, the way those mechanics interacted made the character too powerful. We're going to dial him back down to where he belongs.
Yeah, we're going to nerf them.
I
spent all this time saying how it's not a nerf, and
it makes the character weaker, but doesn't mean
technically it nerfs the character, but it was mainly just fixing glitches that caused the nerf. He just shouldn't have been as powerful. I agree with everything Kevin said. Literally,
there's nowhere that says that those were glitches. Like,
it seems like they would be glitches. So I understand. I get it. On both points, I get it. A nerf and non-nerf, it seems like technical stuff that it should have bypassed. I think Genji, there's a couple people in chat, Genji can still kill a massive amount. He can still do a massive amount of damage on his 6-second ult. 8 seconds was just way too long. Basically, I won't even get started. It was too much. The 6-second is a good adjustment. He's still definitely viable. He's not nerfed to the dust. He's not terrible. He's better than still quite a few characters if you could play him well. His skill ceiling is just high, which I think is intentional. I think that's how he's supposed to be made as a character. So he's still going to see play. He's still going to show up in competitive. Poke is still going to play him to his absolute content. He's going to make it work. People with the skill level will make it work. He's still definitely viable. All of the nerfs were fine. Adjustments. All of them were good.
In terms of numerical values, it's not like he does any less damage. It's not like he's got any less health, right? Like, the character is still exactly the same as he was before. All they've done is modify some of the timings and interactions. If you discount the change to how long his ult lasts, the rest of that is just stuff that interacts with his abilities. It's not like he hits for less. It's not like he's a weaker character. Whereas most of the other changes we've been looking at, right? Mercy has been increased by 20%. Like, that's a substantial change. These are all just, yeah, okay, these interactions weren't what we wanted them to be. They're fixed.
Yeah, I agree.
John's making a face. He doesn't agree.
Go on to the next one.
Sure. All right, we're moving on. We're going to do Lucio next. So Lucio had his Amp It Up speed increase set to 70% instead of 100%. And a large part of this was to do with the fact that Lucio was being used in a lot of cases specifically just to run a team back after a partial or full team wipe quickly as a group. And it was very, very powerful. Like it made Lucio a must-take character in those situations. So on the whole, I think this is a good change. It's still very powerful. A 70% speed boost is still nothing to sneeze at. It just means that now you'll use it at the start of a map. You'll use it in clutch situations where you need to help an ally get back from being out of position
like it's
for a health
supposed to
pack
be
or something.
for.
Yeah, it has isolated instances of use, but it's not going to be enormously powerful, and it takes it out of must-have category into nice-to-have category, which is probably where it belongs.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. What's up with Roadhog, Rash?
They said that they changed his hook to where, for example, if the hook somehow connects and you are around the corner, the game registers the line of sight from the Roadhog, and if you weren't in his sight when the hook lands, it will cancel the hook instead of doing the weird animation where it kind of hooks you and then you get stuck in a weird spot in between, or it actually pulls you from around the wall and you get gibbed from a hook that shouldn't have hit you. They say that they fixed it, but it's still kind of wonky. I think in the attempt of trying to fix it from being an issue, they kind of ran into some glitches that they're still probably, well, obviously they're trying to work on it for the PTR. It just seems really glitchy. Like you're getting more hooks that you shouldn't get. I think it's just a technical issue. It's definitely not how he's supposed to be played. So that's something that they're going to work on. The change is good though, when they get it right, which hopefully they will before it goes live. So it's a good change. It's a good change.
It seems like it's a weird artifact of favor the shooter and the way that it's trying to calculate where someone is when they get hooked versus projectile time versus line of sight, and there's just some oddness in the interaction there in terms of what counts as a hit because it has an enormous hitbox. And this will also, I think, to your point, Rosh, be affected by the size of projectiles and how they're calculating hitboxes again. So although they may have made a bit of a tweak to how they're calculating whether or not you're an eligible hook target, it's also going to hit people in that enormous radius again. So there might be a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B happening there. But on the whole, whatever they're trying to do behind the scenes to make it so that you never watch a kill cam and see yourself get hooked around a corner or through a wall, whatever they want to do to make that happen, I'm 100% all for.
Yeah, I agree.
So last, Zenyatta, his orb of discard damage amplification decreased from 50% to 30%. So basically, just instead of the target taking 50% more damage, they take 30%. And the orb of destruction increased from 40 to 46. So basically, they said orb of discord, too strong. We're going to nerf that a little bit, but we are going to make Zenyatta even more viable as this DPS damage dealing character to kind of compensate for some of that loss that he gets from his orb of discord change.
Interestingly enough, this is actually, in a kind of a circular way, pretty much what we had suggested needed to happen with him. We had talked about having Discord potentially not be as large of a boon to teammates as it was to Zenyatta himself, because we liked the new travel time and how quickly you could reapply it to alternate targets. So they basically did exactly what we said, just instead of making Discord have two different values, one for Zenyatta and one for other players, they flat decreased how effective Discord is and flat increased his damage. So if you were to look at the math on how much damage Zenyatta does to a discorded character, it's very close to what it was before, but for other characters, it's slightly lower. And I think that's exactly the change that needed to be made there, so that you couldn't just have a Zenyatta quickly discord targets and have them get deleted by someone else on the team and just rotating through that really fast.
Yeah, what they originally, back when they were trying to mess with Mercy last time on the PTR, when they released Ana, they tried messing with her damage boost to give her 50% damage boost to whoever target she was damage boosting. And then they took it away and they said it was too powerful to give one person 50% damage. But then they went into Zenyatta and they increased his Orb of Discord, which not only gives him 30% extra damage, but they increased it to 50 and let everybody get 50% more damage on the character, and that was broken. If you're not going to let Mercy have it and you think that's too OP, how in the world did you think you're going to get away with Zenyatta giving everyone 50%? So definitely a needed nerf. Zenyatta is almost, he's still a really good character, so he's still just as playable. I think it was a perfect tweak to him.
Yeah, again, right? Just takes him from must have back down to nice to have. There will be times and places where Discord is the correct choice to counterpick someone on the opposing team, but you won't take him snap hard lock at the start of every game no matter what.
Exactly.
Yep. Last but not least, map balance. Watchpoint Gibraltar's first checkpoint's been removed with all the time bank stuff. It was kind of worthless. And even in competitive play, most people seeded that
It was a dumb
point
checkpoint anyway. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It made no sense. You stayed on the upper ground instead of going down there. You just basically gave it for free. It made no sense to be there.
Right. Fun stuff. So we did get a little bit of a BM update because Mr. Kevin Hovdestad was having a little bit too much fun.
Too much fun.
So right now, I believe it only works with GG space easy. But whenever you type that in, it now says there's some funny stuff. I don't have any screenshots in front of me, but it's pretty hilarious.
Like one more game, Mom. I promise I'll get off. Oh, mistel. Like, sorry guys, I'm working on my insecurity issues. Like, don't listen to me. It's all fun stuff. It's
brutal. It's hilarious and brutal. Which I love.
Don't actually think they'll go live. That's my prediction. I think they're having fun with this on PTR, and it was a great way to generate some conversation. I don't think it'll carry to live.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I don't know.
That's my guess.
So we also have high bandwidth servers now rolled out. Servers now go at 63 instead of 21 updates per second. So that's pretty neat. And they even did say last week that some of the replay spectator stuff got bumped so that they could get stuff like better server bandwidth, high bandwidth servers.
I think that's running. A priority, so I approve of it.
Yeah. So Rosh approves, so that's good. And then also, fun fact, Jeff Kaplan does not use cue cards or a teleprompter during his developer updates. So for those of you guys wondering how he
did.
A lot of people did. He's really eloquent when he speaks. He's a super eloquent guy.
Honestly,
and
when
he
I
does
was watching
it all in one take.
When I was watching the one take, that's crazy. When I was watching, I was like, wow, this guy's really rehearsed. I was watching how he was speaking, how he was using hand gestures, all of that. I didn't think that he used a teleprompter. I just thought that, wow, this guy's good with public speaking and doing that. So that's kind of funny that people thought he was using teleprompters.
I never would have thought he would have used a teleprompter, but I could totally see him have like cue cards just right below the camera or something like that. Hit these points, but it's just straight off the top of his head, which I think I've only seen him make one mistake, and it was in the last one where he said the ranking system was 1 to 1,000 and he meant 1 to 5,000, and they like updated it on the YouTube video.
Yeah, but it's a good sign that he's very in tune with the game and understands what's going on and what they're changing. This is not someone who is, sitting back and can't play his own game, doesn't understand how it works. Like, he's very much a competent gamer and fully immersed in Overwatch.
Yeah.
We got to get out of here, though. That we don't have time, Kev. We'll push it to next week. It'll be just as relevant next week, even though we already know the answer to that question. So it's so dumb. It's the worst topic we'll ever have on the show. Don't even tune in next week. Let's go ahead and get out of here. If you want to talk about is casual Overwatch better in silence, that'll be one of our things we talk about next week. Send us your thoughts to Payload Podcast on Twitter or the Payload at blizzpro.com. Talk about how you, if you're a casual player, enjoy playing in silence or not. And so let's go ahead and get into it. First, no new iTunes reviews this week. So if you guys do like the show, want to support any way you can, the best way to do that is to leave a 5-star iTunes review. Helps us get seen, helps other people interested in the show read about our show and what's good about it and what we can do better. And patrons. Kev, we got patrons, do we not?
We do. We're very excited to have one new patron this week, Adam B., who also goes by Shadow Vapor, good friend of the show. He's done a ton of stuff over at BlizzPro over the years. And that means that we are now, guys, just on the cusp, very close to our first major milestone, which happened really fast. We only launched this Patreon last month. So thank you so much to all the people who have turned up and said that they value the time and effort we're putting into this show in that particular regard. It means a lot to us. If you want to become part of the family and help the Patreon and the Payload grow, head over to patreon.com/Payload podcast. You can see all the rewards and milestones there.
Great. Shoutouts for the week. Rosh, what are you up to? What are your shoutouts?
Just my everyday thanks to F2K, you guys, our sponsors, good-gaming.com. My life has gotten so much better, and I just so much more positive, and I've been radiating with happiness. You guys are the reason I wake up each day. The viewers, the podcast, F2K, you guys have drastically changed my life. So just huge shout out to you guys. Kevin, Jimmy, I know he's not here. He's off being, Jimmy. So John too, everybody. I honestly, I appreciate you guys so much. Thanks so much for having me here.
You're welcome. Kev, what about you, man?
Nothing big for a change. I'm just honestly looking forward to, I'm hoping to take a little time off at the end of this month. I'm trying to book a little vacation, get away, maybe have some time off to spend enjoying the World of Warcraft Legion launch. So that's kind of where my head's at right now. And then when that's all over and done with and things are settled back down, maybe play a little bit more Overwatch in competitive Season 2, but there's a little bit of time between now and then. So in the interim, if you're interested in any of the other side projects I'm working on, whether that's Well Met or my writing portfolio or any of that kind of stuff, come find me on Twitter at Lack of Realism. Would love to have you there. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, as for me doing the same old stuff, I'm still fundraising for TwitchCon, so I'm streaming at twitch.tv/kicktripod. Usually 3 to 4 times a week. I'm $1 off my goal of having a consistent streaming schedule, so I'm really close to being able to do that.
Huge.
I know, I'm really excited. So stay tuned for that. Also, we are becoming more and more professional in the podcast world. We actually got everything classified as a business this week, so that was kind of fun. Got all that squared away, so that was really cool. So Rosh, thanks for being here. The people have definitely spoken saying they approve of you on the show. So that's good. You're killing it. So we love having you here.
I never got the approval.
Nope.
Because John was bad-mouthing you the entire time. It's okay. Yeah. We'll take him out. It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah, it's true. He doesn't support education initiatives. So. All right, so you can find more Overwatch stuff throughout the week at overwatch.blizzpro.com. And big thanks to Jake Butineau at jakebutineau.ca for our music and sitedesigns.com for our logo. Find us on Twitter at Payload Podcast, or subscribe to us on Patreon at patreon.com/Payload Podcast. Help us get a new logo. And send us your emails and thoughts about the show to thepayload@blizzpro.com. If you like the show, want to support, don't necessarily have the money to do it, leave us an iTunes review. It's the best way to do it, and we get to read your name on the show. And if you say something funny or make your name really hard to pronounce, we'll make somebody try to pronounce it, and that's always fun as well. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, Google Podcast, and more. We're everywhere. This has been episode number 35 of The Payload. For myself, Rosh, and Kevin, have a good week. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody. Every bun. Goodbye, everyone. Bye.
The Payload is a production of BlizzPro. Find out more about Overwatch at overwatch.blizzpro.com. You can find your host throughout the week on social media. Find Jimmy on Twitter at DJ Tyrant, Kevin on Twitter at Lack of Realism, and John on Twitter at Kicked Tripod.